welcome everyone. What an honor to have you all join us, and rather than have you all join us, to be part of how Utah is going to lead the nation. We've done that, and we'll continue to do that. We started 2 years ago when we were asking a question: what do we do when nearly 40% of every dollar that we spend in Utah comes from a federal government that's borrowing and printing more than 40 cents of every dollar it spends? And you look at some of these charts, you see the debt off the charts. You see deficits exceeding GDP. And it reminds me of something that Ronald Reagan said in 1985. This is a wonderful time to be alive. We're lucky not to live in pale and timid times. We've been blessed with the opportunity to stand for something. And that's what Utah does. And that's what this group here is today. I'm so excited that this is the best of what we see in how our government works. Coming from a Chamber of Commerce and a city and a group of cities and chamber groups and CPAs standing up saying, this is unsustainable and we're going to act and not be acted upon for the opportunity for our children and to lead out in the nation. When we started 2 years ago to do contingency planning in our state agencies, no one had even thought the thought. And as we saw the downgrades and the debt ceiling meltdowns, and the rating agencies came out to look at what do you do when federal funds go away, and they asked our finance people, what do you do? And we said, well, we're already preparing for that in Utah. We're already preparing that contingency planning, and what we're here today and what we're all here to do today is to take that next step to a much more comprehensive level. And so you're all to be commended. This is a wonderful time to be alive. We're lucky not to live in pale and timid times. We have been blessed with the opportunity to stand for something, and in Utah, that's what we do. What we're going to go through today, we're going to first see a short video clip of Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson. Now, they're the co-chairs of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission that President Obama appointed after the 2008 meltdown to look at what happened and where does it go from here. And we'll see a short clip on that, and then we'll hear from Kent Thomas, who's the chairman of the Utah Association of CPAs. In seeing what's happening, the CPAs locally are certified public accountants locally and nationally have pulled the fire alarm and said it's time. This is a math problem, and we simply have to act. So we'll hear from Kent Thomas, and then we'll go through and hear from some of the legislators, from Senator Osmond, and then Senator Harper, and then Senator Henderson, on this incredible package of legislation that has come from the ground up, that as Utah we're standing together to begin to go comprehensively and plan for what happens as the federal government continues to act in the unsustainable manner that it has. So we'll go to the video clip, and then we'll hear from Kent Thomas.
A lot of us sitting in this room didn't see this last crisis as it came upon us, but this one is really easy to see. The fiscal path we are on today is simply not sustainable. This debt and these deficits that we are incurring on an annual basis are like a cancer, and they are truly going to destroy this country from within unless we have the common sense to do something about it. This is a problem we're going to have to face up to in maybe 2 years, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But if our bankers over there in Asia begin to believe that we're not going to be solid on our debt, that we're not going to be able to meet our obligations, just stop and think for a minute what happens if they just stop buying our debt. What happens to interest rates? And what happens to the U.S. economy? The markets will absolutely devastate us if we don't step up to this problem. The problem is real, the solutions are painful, and we have to act.
What I tell people is very simple, and people in America are way ahead of all of you. They know what's going on, because when you say, why don't you go back and think of what people are doing at their kitchen table? I'll tell you what they're doing at their kitchen table. They know that if you spend more than you earn, you lose your butt. And they know that if you spend $1 and borrow 40 cents of it, you must be stupid. And they've got it figured out that this government is stupid. To borrow 40 cents for every buck you spend. Forget the charts, forget the GDP, all the rest of it. That's where we are.
I think we face the most predictable economic crisis in history. Let me just tell you how crazy our situation is today. We have this treaty where we're supposed, if China were to attack Taiwan, we're supposed to support Taiwan. The only problem is we'd have to borrow the money from China in order to do it. You know, this is a real mess we're in today. And we can either take the ostrich theory and put our heads in the sand, or we can decide we're going to step up and do something about it. But I can tell you, bankers aren't going to continue to finance something that they aren't sure they're going to get paid back in. The less sure they are, the more they're going to charge you at first, and then they're going to cut you off. And we're borrowing half of our money from foreign countries.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce Financial Ready Utah. This is a grassroots movement that started in West Jordan, Utah, just about a year ago, where concerned citizens and business leaders got together and started talking about a campaign that the American Institute of CPAs put out called What's at Stake. This campaign is intended to make the federal debt problem be easy to understand and easy to focus on. Well, in the process, they shared their concerns about the burgeoning federal debt and our representatives' seeming inability to live within their means. One of the members of that group that met together at the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, standing by my side, is Dan Griffiths. He's a member of the Utah Association of CPAs. He came to our group and expressed his concerns in the discussion that they had. So we, as an executive board of the Utah Association of CPAs, got a meeting together with legislatures and CPAs to talk about what's happening at the state of Utah. What can we do to prepare? As we did that, we discussed the very situation we're talking about. And what we found as we got talking to the state legislature is what's on this chart right here. If you look at that, the federal government represents the largest single portion of the Utah state revenue source. 40% of what is spent, 30% of what is budgeted. If that goes away, what happens to the state of Utah? What happens to each one of us? That is money that is used to fund Medicare, the National Guard, transportation, social programs, you name it, the federal government has their finger there. So we're thrilled and we applaud the efforts of the legislature and concerned citizens to consider what happens if and start making plans. Lest you believe that this is a political organization or that we have ulterior motives, let me assure you that the Utah Association of CPAs is completely nonpartisan. But I will also assure you that we are extremely concerned. Representative Ivory mentioned the fire alarm. Well, we are pulling the financial fire alarm. Accountants across this state are very concerned about the state of our economy and our circumstances, and we want you to be concerned. In the spirit of Financial Ready Utah, preparing for the earthquake that is to come, we have formed Financial Ready Utah, preparing for the financial earthquake that will come, and we need to be prepared. As your trusted advisors, because that's what we are, we want to help you plan. And I call on CPAs and concerned citizens across the state of Utah to join together, to lead out, to use your expertise, and to advise cities, counties, the state government, businesses, and individuals to get your house in order. As citizens of the state of Utah, the first and most important thing we need to do is to get our own personal houses in order, to make sure that our budgets are in line with our revenue. Second thing we need to do is tell our representatives that we are concerned and that we are willing to step up and help guide this effort and implement these programs. Third, our representatives need to know that we will support them when they make very difficult decisions. These are not easy decisions, they are not fun decisions, and they're going to affect us individually. They're going to affect our families, our businesses, and us as individuals. They need to know that they have our support even if our favorite program is affected by some of these changes. And lastly, we need to step up and get the word out to our neighbors and friends and other business leaders, associates, and the people we influence, and bring them in and get them involved in this process. I'm excited for this opportunity because It's about time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Senate bill, or Senate resolution, joint resolution number 7, is really the foundational bill of the bills that we're going to be hearing about today. It's a resolution that identifies that our nation's reckless fiscal situation is a great and clear and present threat to the security of the United States of America and to the state of Utah. The resolution calls upon all government leaders, local leaders, state leaders, the legislature and the governor, as well as on our congressional delegation and the President of the United States, to immediately and sustainably address the deficit spending of our country and to put measures in place now, both locally and at a national level, to address those problems in the future and to have a balanced budget. There are many details outlined in the bill that will give you context behind why all of these bills are being presented today, and with that, I turn it over to Senator Henderson.
Harper, Henderson, they both start with the letter H, but one of us is much better looking. Thank you all for coming today. We're really dealing with a salient issue here that has to be addressed. As was highlighted earlier, we cannot continue to ignore the fact that 40% of our state budget comes from federal funds, 40% of the federal funds comes from borrowed money. It is a crushing situation. To deal with that, I have two bills that have passed the Senate are now in the House. One goes through and directs the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget to go through and take a look exactly where all the federal funds are coming from, and as the Governor drafts up his proposed budget, talk about where those funds are coming from and what happens if those are reduced. Contingency plan, if you will. Second one changes the budget procedures of the House and Senate, so as we prepare our budget that is debated and passed, amended and passed before it's passed, it goes through and specifically tells us what we need to do and create a backup plan for how we deal with the different funding that is there and what needs to be done so we have our house in order as a state. We maintain our AAA bond rating. We reduce the amount of burden that is on the state citizens of the state of Utah. That's what we do. So now we'll go to Senator Henderson.
Thank you. My bill will establish a commission on federal funds. The commission will help Utah prepare for a future in which we continue to be subject to the financial instability of the federal government. Utah was founded on the principle of self-reliance. Throughout this building, we see the symbol of the beehive that signifies our legacy of industriousness and hard work. Unfortunately, like every other state, Utah has become increasingly dependent on federal funds to provide even our most basic needs. The purpose of this commission on federal funds is to study and assess the financial stability of the federal government, the level of dependency the state and local governments have on the receipt of those funds, and the risk we have of experiencing a reduction in the amount of or the value of those funds. The commission will also make recommendations to the governor and the legislature on methods to avoid or minimize the risk of a reduction in the amount or value of federal funds by state and local governments, and also reduce the dependency of the state and local governments on these funds. Thank you.
So you get an idea of how crazy this is. I mean, we had the Budget Control Act. We're trying to put together budgets to take care of sick people and poor people and educate children and transportation and public safety, no matter what the federal government does. And in the midst of trying to put together a budget, we've got a federal government that is pushing the can down the road, printing more money, and talking about minting trillion-dollar platinum coins. Well, in Utah, we know we need to take care of real children and real sick people and real poor people. So your legislators and city leaders and county officials and chambers of commerce groups have stepped up and said, no, we simply have to act. We simply have to act, and we know that we have to take care of those things. So the question becomes, what can I do, right? That's what's so exciting about this. What can I do? This came from Rick Davis. This came from Craig Deering. This came from Dan Griffiths, and said we have to act. And that's the very best of our community, where we get involved at the most local level and work our way up. So back on the table, what you have in some of the materials, there's a resolution that you can take to your city council, to your chamber of commerce, to your county commission, to your school district and your school board, and say, this is serious. We need to know how we go forward in this situation. As Erskine Bowles said, the problems are real, the solutions are painful, but we have to act. So that's an opportunity for all of us to get in and take that to each of our various organizations. Get on the Facebook page. The Financial Ready Utah Facebook page is the best way to organize, the best way to begin starting to network as we move out, and then also volunteer. I have some friends, my neighbor who's a CPA, said, I'm just so concerned about this. Rob Summers, I'm just so concerned about this, and I want to get involved and see what I can do to help. Because we all have our children, and we can see what's coming. We can see that if we continue to indulge in this illusion that we can print prosperity, we do that at the expense of our children. And in Utah, we simply won't tolerate that. We're going to prepare opportunity for our children and lead out in our nation. So those are the things that we can do. Get that resolution, go to your city council, chamber, any organization, your Avon club. Get them to pass that resolution and say, we care, we're lending our support and our leverage to act. Get on the Facebook page, get to social media, and then contact Amy. Where's Amy? Amy's done such a wonderful job. She's put together all these materials and has done such an amazing job with the Utah Association of CPAs to put all of this together. What a delight. What a delight to have people that care and have such talent to move these things forward. Get in touch with Amy and let her know the talents, the resources, the time that you can put together on this. Also, there's a movement that came out of what Erskine Bowles and Alan Simpson said 2 years ago, and that's called Fix the Debt. And where's, he's not here. Fix the Debt is a national movement that's going forward. That's another opportunity to get involved on they have all sorts of social media and websites. But guys, this is us. This is our nation. These are our children. This is our future. And who better to lead on these things than Utah, as Representative Henderson said so well. And so your team is working to move forward on this, and thank you for engaging. This really is the best of what government is, and we're showing that model from Utah to the nation as we have and will continue to do. So thank you for being here. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.